So Nvidia's RTX 5070 Ti is here, or should I say the 4070 Ti Super 2? But I'll get to that in a minute. Either way, I decided to put it up against AMD's 7900 XTX and their XT model. Plus, I have a 4070 Ti for good measure, and if you'd like to pick up Nvidia's new 5070 Ti for when it's released, I'll have affiliate links down in the description below. Nvidia's new cards have obviously been selling out like mad lately, so hopefully it helps you pick one up. Either way, those leaks don't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. Last week, I went over a statement by Nvidia that made it seem like their 5070 doesn't have a Founders Edition card. Well, that is correct. So they sent over an MSRP model by Zeus, their prime 5070 Ti, and a thanks for that. Though of course, that won't affect this review. Now, when it comes to the card itself, I will say that it's not bad. It has a triple fan shroud with a nice looking black design. And for those who are sick of RGB, you'll be glad to know there isn't any here, giving it a look that can go into just about any build. It also has a nice looking backplate and even a dual BIOS switch. The display out comes with 3 display ports and 1 HDMI. And all of this comes together in a fairly slim 2.5 slot package. Moving on to specs, this is where we start to see an issue. The 5070 Ti comes with just 8,960 CUDA cores, which is only 16.7% more than last gen's 4070 Ti. Now, that is better than the 5080, and like the 5080, you expect to have higher clocks versus its last gen counterpart, right? Wrong. In fact, the 5070 Ti's clocks are lower than last gen's 4070 Ti. And things get even worse because the 4070 Ti Super exists. When compared to that, the 5070 Ti has just 6.1% more cores, and it also has lower clocks. Basically, it seems like Nvidia is completely relying on their new DLSS 4 multi-frame generation to make this gen worth it at all. Remember that the frame gen only works on their 5,000 cards, well, multi-frame generation, so it's at least somewhat a reason to buy. That and the $50 price drop on the 4070 Ti. But don't forget that recent listings on retailers show it may be really tough to impossible to get it at that price. Either way, it doesn't feel like a next generation product, but maybe the actual performance will show us something that the specs don't. Let's find out. Starting things off, in Rasterization, the 5070 Ti mostly beats out the 7900 XT, but typically falls short of the 7900 XTX, though just barely a lot of the time. With that said, there are some exceptions to this. For example, in F1 2023, even the 7900 XT can beat out the 5070 Ti. And in Black Myth Wukong, the 5070 Ti even beats out the 7900 XTX. But overall, 3D Mark benchmarks actually give you a decent look at what to expect. The DX12 Time Spy benchmark has the 5070 Ti between the other two, but in the ray tracing benchmark Port Royal, it handily beats out both of them. And this brings us to ray tracing. As you would expect, Nvidia's 5070 Ti really starts to win here, especially in games that have more intense ray tracing, even coming back to win in F1 2023 when you turn ray tracing up to high. And it can even make path tracing on Cyberpunk nearly playable-ish without any upscaling or frame gen. Overall, Nvidia is definitely ahead here. Though of course, you may want to wait for AMD's 9000 series, but strictly against the 7000 cards, Nvidia definitely takes a big lead here. But here's the big issue. All of this ignores the 4070 Ti and 4070 Ti Super. What is up with the naming, by the way? Pick one, Ti or Super. Come on. Back to the topic at hand. When compared to the original 4070 Ti, it's a decent upgrade depending on the game. I mean, it's not impressive for an entirely new generation, but it's not terrible, especially given the MSRP is $50 less, though once again, I highly doubt that'll happen. But the issue once again is that the 4070 Ti Super exists. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have one to try out, but when we look at an average rasterization performance on Tom's Hardware, it's basically even with the 7900 XT. So the 5070 Ti does seem to be an upgrade, just not a very big one. Unless, of course, you take into account DLSS 4 multi-frame generation. As you would expect, it absolutely gives the GPU a big jump in performance. And yes, I know it's fake frames, plus it adds latency, but like I've said, from my encounter at CES, I really didn't notice those issues. But that doesn't mean you won't. Honestly, I wish they could have added the features to the 4000 series. According to Nvidia, it's not possible, and I will say that the 5000 series does have FP4 support, which is double the bandwidth, though half the accuracy. Still, who knows if the 4000 series really can't? Ultimately, the 5070 Ti is pretty disappointing in terms of an upgrade over current gen, and depending on the price, it could definitely be a better buy over the 7900 XT and XTX. But the big question is definitely the 9070 and 9070 XT. So while that does it for today, what do you think about Nvidia's new 5070 Ti? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And as always, have a great day.